This video is dedicated to the memory of Mitsumi Unamar, who recently passed away at the age of 63. This person was the character designer for a lot of the main Tales of series, which if you don't know what they are, they're one of the best RPG franchises of all time, and a franchise that meant the world to me. Tales of Izili being one of my favorite games ever created that I could talk about for hours on end. The character designs were so important to me and really shaped my love for JRPGs in the PlayStation 3 era and beyond. I want to thank them so much for everything that they've done, and thank you so much for creating such beautiful character designs that I will remember for the rest of my life. This video will not be monetized, of course, just letting people know that, because I don't want to be shady like that. Thank you for everything that you've done, and rest in peace. For the past while, I've been playing Pokemon on the channel for the 11 o'clock Let's Play, and I was listening to the Area Zero theme in Pokemon Violet as I was going through the game, and it made me feel really good. Like, it's a really good theme, it's kind of spooky in a way, but it makes you feel some kind of emotions as you're going through that world. And then I thought about how it's going to be so interesting that in a few years' time, like 2 years from now, when I hear that song again, and when I hear any song from this game again, I'm going to feel so different than when I first heard it the first time, but at the same time feel kind of like a very similar way. I'm going to feel something strange. I'll be taken right back into that game without even playing it. It's going to be the sensory overload of emotions like coming at me really, really quickly. And the only reason I know this is because this happens quite a bit to me, where I hear a soundtrack from a video game or a song from a video game and I'm taken right back into that game. And I think I'm not the only person that this happens to, because I hear people talking about this all the time, but I really just wanted to talk about that for just a tiny bit on how that feeling actually means the world to me. And in some cases it can be a good thing and a bad thing. It can send you into a nightmare sometimes too, but mostly it does make me feel these really good emotions about video games. Music will always make me feel something in the moment. It's not just about nostalgia. Music can make you cry, it can make you happy, it can make you really hype. Just recent examples of this: Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn, the final boss music played a song in that game that made me bawl my eyes out. Persona 3 Reload's opening song, when I heard it for the first time when booting up the game, I was crying. It felt like this is culmination of moments. And even the credit sequence again, which is a song we've heard a million times, but still, I'm not going to spoil it, but it is just a beautiful song. I was hegging it, tears flowing from my eyes puffy. And if you look at pretty much every boss fight in any Yakuza game, and especially in Infinite Wealth, these are songs that really will make you hype and make you want to go further into these games. And I really feel like music is such an important aspect in games that it's so it's not even overlooked. No one overlooks music. Everyone loves music in video games. But it's one of those things that without it, we would be totally freaking lost. We would be so lost. But I'm talking about today more the feelings you get years later, that nostalgic feeling. I'm going to give a few examples here. I'm going to talk about a bunch of examples about songs that I hear outside of playing a game that were from a game that just send me right back into that game, that make me feel like I'm right back in that world. Now, it's going to be a few examples here that I can think of, but it's not going to be every example. Of course, there's 1,000,001 soundtracks that and OSTs that will change your whole perspective on video games forever. That's happened to me so many times. I just thought about thinking about Pinello's theme the other day. The Final Fantasy XII soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, and that makes me feel 1,000,001 ways as well. But today I just wanted to indulge me for a bit. Indulge Calvin in this kind of really weird trip down memory lane that's not really a trip down memory lane. That's a trip down music lane, is probably a better way of looking at it. Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite games of all time. In fact, it's my second favorite game ever made, my favorite RPG ever created. And it is just one really special game to me. Now, the thing is about that, years ago they remastered the games and put them on PlayStation 4, and they also had them on PlayStation 3, on PlayStation Vita. They had all these versions of the game. They're all really beautiful versions of the game. And I enjoy playing the PS2 version just like I did when I was a child. So I booted up my PS4, I went to the store, and I hovered over the new version of Final Fantasy X that I already have on the Vita, that I already had on PS3. I already had this game on PlayStation 2. This is a game that I had beloved for years. I loved for years. And then the song Suteki Dene played on the PS4 shop trailer. And it showed Tidus and Yuna together, swimming in the waters together. I don't want to... It's hard not to... If I say anything more than that, I feel like it's going to spoil some stuff. I could not grasp how weird it was at the time, but saying this out loud might sound strange, but I think a lot of people will relate to this. I think everyone's going to relate to this. I was back in that scene. I was in the calm waters with Yuna and Tidus, but not actually literally with them, because they were doing some they were up to some things together of the kissy kind. But I was there spiritually again. I was back with those characters. I was in that world once again, and I started to just cry really weirdly, and I like remember just click purchase as I was like, oh, this game. Whenever I hear a save theme from Resident Evil, mostly Resident Evil Remake or Resident Evil 0 or Code Veronica, there is this feeling of safety that like brushes over me so quickly. Those areas in Resident Evil games are some of my favorite areas ever. The fact that there's one area in a game where you are not to be touched. The zombies cannot get you in here. They will not hurt you in here. And you have this music playing as you're organizing your inventory, you're organizing all your things. So whenever I turn on, like I always use Resident Evil 0 music to play in the background of my videos. Every time I play it, it's like do 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 do. And like editing Calvin is feeling emotional. I feel safe. I feel like almost like I'm back in those safe rooms. It's such a weird feeling, but like I enjoy it every single time. It actually makes me so happy to like hear this music again. Like it makes me so happy. The Nier Replicant soundtrack. Now like here's the thing, the Nier Replicant soundtrack. Like let's just be honest about the Nier Replicant soundtrack here. Like I totally get that like everyone loves the Nier Replicant soundtrack. Everyone talks about this soundtrack as being one of the greatest of all times because it is. It is one of the best soundtracks ever. When I hear Devil and Popola's theme, it will stop me in my tracks. I will just stop right away. And I have it on it's on my Spotify playlist. And I remember every time it comes on, I'm just like, I stop and I go, oh my god, like this is one of the most beautiful songs ever. But not only that, like those other games, like I can just picture when I first heard that, the first moment I heard that. And I remember I went straight to Twitter afterwards. I was like, guys, this song. I think the tweet is still up there. I'm like, guys, this song is incredible. Such a beautiful moment in that game, and like the music in that game is beautiful no matter what, but like that is just such a special memory for me as well. The Shadow of the Colossus Malice theme, and most of the Shadow of the Colossus music again is fantastic. Shadow of the Colossus is my favorite game of all time. When I played Shadow of the Colossus as a kid, I played it with my friend, and so whenever I play or hear any music from Shadow of the Colossus, all I think about is playing video games with my friends. I think about sitting down and playing this game for the first time. But Malice's theme is interesting to me because there's a sense of fear about it. Even though I defeated this boss and can defeat this boss 1,000,001 times, there's something really crazy about like hearing Malice's theme and still being terrified. Because I don't think about Calvin, who at my age now can defeat Malice no problem. I think about Calvin when he was like 9 years old. I think about like 10 or 9 years old Calvin trying his very best to defeat Malice with his friend and being absolutely terrified of the monsters in these games. It's so weird that like I revert back to being a child when I hear this song. It's insane to me. All of the Tekken games I've played as a kid as well. I played every single Tekken game that came out. I haven't played Tekken 8 yet, but that's literally just because it's a very high-priced game right now, and I'm kind of like, I'm playing a lot of games right now, so it's probably not good to buy a fighting game for that I'll play for a bit and play the story modes and then probably not play the online multiplayers. But Tekken Tag Tournament's opening theme and Tekken 4's opening theme, it's crazy to me, like how so much emotion can be put into two fighting games that I played when I was younger. My auntie introduced me to Tekken first of all, and Tekken 4 was the first ever game I owned myself for a home console, and that was the PlayStation 2. When you hear that opening part of the song, I'm gonna butcher it. It's like and like you hear the typing on the computer. I feel like I'm right back where that thing started, and I know that shite is about to go down. And the Tekken Tag Tournament opening theme as well. I think about every single scene in that opening scene. I know that these characters are characters that I care about and I dearly care about, and I think about all of them in that moment. That whole soundtrack for Tekken Tag Tournament is something that will take me back into those games so easily. I know I'm talking about so many soundtracks here, but like it's just something that's so meaningful to me. Like the Dark Souls 1 and 2's ending theme. It makes me haunted. I'm haunted by the Dark Souls 1 and 2's ending theme. When I hear especially like the Dark Souls 2 ending theme, when it goes, like, it makes me sad because finishing a Dark Souls game is a happy moment because you're like, now I get to try more builds. Now I get to try more, like fighting more enemies. I get to do more things in the game. I can do a whole new playthrough. But it's also like I'm never gonna get the experience of playing this for the first time again. These games are more magical than people give them credit for. I mean, let's talk about Persona 5. Persona 5 and Beneath the Mask, we all have the same feelings about this. Whenever that song plays, you're back in LeBlanc. You're back traveling through the town. It's one of the best feelings in the world hearing that theme song. One of the games that I played the most in my life is a game called WB 2K19. I've probably played 2,000 hours of this game, and it was because WB 2K20 released and it wasn't very good. So we had this game that wasn't great, and all of a sudden, like, we had to just keep playing 2K19 until 2K20, was it 22 came out? I think was the game that replaced it. Or it might be 21, I'm not sure, but I think it was 2K22. And I remember, like, the songs from this game would play all the time. It had, like, an actual soundtrack of real songs. So the other day, I was like, I want to look up the OST for 2K19. And even though this game has a lot of happy memories for me, it also, like, made me feel sick. I listened to the soundtrack and I was like, oh my god, I spent too much time in this game. Because I heard, like, the song, you know, blow my mind. And, like, I felt sick. I felt like, Calvin, did you waste your life away? Fun is never wasted time, by the way. Fun is never wasted time. But, like, I still felt that in the moment where I was like, that is, like, a weird feeling. I never want to go back to those times. It almost felt like, even though, like, it was a great wrestling game, it's like, I never want to go back to that area and play that song again or hear that song again. Which is kind of like, I don't know, it's not meant to be mean towards this, like, game that, like, really gave me something that, like, meant a lot to me. I just feel like it could also make you feel that way with a not so good game as well. It can really make you feel that way. How we're connected to video games like this really feels like the Final Fantasy life force. Like, I finished this game, I finished all these games, but they'll never leave me. They'll always be with me. They'll always take me back to those times. It follows me around forever. And some soundtracks I stay away from because it even takes me back to a time where I don't want to remember. I can't play the original Crash trilogy on the Vita anymore. I have to play the remasters because every time I play the original Crash trilogy mixed with the music, I think of a time when I was in hospital. I think when I was getting surgery. There's times where I play games where I'm like, this reminds me of a friend that I don't talk to anymore or something like that, and it makes you feel so weird. Songs are so important in video games, and, like, I really adore the idea of them changing my day or changing my mood for good or bad. It shows how impactful they are. They changed me. They changed my whole day. That is impressive. I hope I don't sound demented, and honestly, I'm just waiting for the next soundtrack to F me up like this, to fuck me up like this. And I think it's gonna be any game that I played this year. Because already, games from like 2 years ago, I hear the soundtrack of a song and I'm like, oh my god. I remember this game. And, like, it makes me feel a whole weird, different way. A perfect example is whenever I hear Florence and the Machine's cover of Final Fantasy 15. This game came out in 2016 and I'm very nostalgic for it already. There is a nostalgia for games that came out like 2 years ago. When I hear Sekiro's opening theme, it makes me feel the way, or Dark Souls 3's music, or Bloodborne's music. It makes me feel a very, very strange way. Thank you guys so much for listening to me today. I know that a lot of times I may sound demented in these videos, but I really do mean how magical these musical things are to me. I'll see you guys for next week's Roman Recess, and please enjoy the questioning segment. As always, we have a kind of question segment of this video, and it's usually just people asking questions or making statements about the topic at hand. Nightmare444 says, the soundtrack of the game is so important to me. I think I listen to more games OSTs than I do any other genre. Games like One Shot and the Ori series are some of the most gorgeous music I've ever heard. However, if I had to pick a favorite, it would have to be from an old JRPG series called Wild Arms. It's basically a fantasy Wild West setting, and the music just fits so perfectly. If you get the chance to listen to the track from my favorite boss of the series, it's called Boomerang. I've always really wanted to get into this series. It's one of the things that's always been on my mind for a long time, if I'm honest. Nightmare444. Pokegirl says, the Versus AI Professor theme is such a good song, one of my favorite Pokemon themes. I'm pretty sure Toby Fox composed it too, which is cool. Yeah, we just played through this part of the game. Actually very, very neat to see that he composed that part of the game. He's actually a very good composer, he just really is. Big Kahuna Burger says, Sonic the Hedgehog is a series so dear to my heart, and the music is absolutely a huge part of that. Night of the Wind is such a fun song. Wrapped in Black, really cool. in the way they sample Malcolm X in it. Just a really cool and interesting variety of music. Never got into Sonic, but this is another thing where I've heard like a few musicals parts from it, and it's always been really impressive. I'd like to definitely get into it at some point if I could. Malcolm Condé says, not music related, but one of my favorite things about your Genshin playthrough is the pacing. Not just because you're able to experience more of the game and go through it naturally rather than blazing through the Acorn quests. Thank you. But because it's technically canon. The traveler spends roughly a year on each region while they do an Acorn quest, complete missions, explore the area doing side quests, as well as doing the limited time story events, which always take place at the furthest point in the game timeline, i.e. the Lantern Rite. However, this also means your characters canonically already participate in the events that were supposed to have happened between Mondstadt and Liyue, for example, on Reconciled Stars. One of the most plot-relevant limited events that directly affects the understanding of the parts of Act 2 and 3. So we've been wondering, would you consider reacting to the story portions of these events in the future as a way to get to the context missing back from that they're never come back? Yes, 100%. If this is something that like I'm never gonna see, 100%, because I'd like to see official story event as well. I think that'd be a really good idea. Yeah, 100%. I think we could like do it on a Friday video that's usually for exploration and stuff like that. We could definitely do a reaction to that as well. Victoria says, Genshin Honkai and Star Rail have some fantastic music. I went and saw one of the live symphony performances back in January. Skyrim is also one of my favorite soundtracks, and Baldur's Gate 3. Victoria has amazing taste. First of all, Skyrim has a magical soundtrack to it that just takes me back to those games whenever I think of it. Baldur's Gate 3 also has an amazing soundtrack too. I really want to play Honkai Star Rail at some point, and I feel like we have to get like kind of deep into Genshin before we even think about playing Honkai, but it sounds like it's a really good idea. Kurt Bluffel says, music is what makes the game for me, and of course the Genshin has always been my favorite OST, but since it's already been brought up, I'll choose my second place, Hades. Music will always have a special place in my heart. I could list out all the reasons why, but I don't know if you're ever planning on playing it, so I'll just avoid spoiling it. Something I can mention without spoilers is that the composer also voices the main character, a side character, and is a singing voice for a separate side character. The man is incredibly talented along with the rest of the devs and voice actors. I cannot wait for the game's sequel to come out. I've never touched Hades either, would you believe? I always appreciate it because it's something that people loved, and it got nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, which is also very cool. I'm not sure if you watched it before, the Genshin Orchestra. Sorry, Ghost of Inazuma says, I'm not sure if you've watched it before, but the Genshin Orchestra YouTube videos are pretty epic. You might find them interesting. Again, there's so much stuff we have to watch and react to, and I definitely will, when we have the time, I think it'd be a good idea to do it. We might even do it in one of these videos, the Roaming Recess videos. My video game favorite theme is from an old video game from 1990 named Wing Commander. The opening theme is a masterpiece. Even better than the original Star Wars soundtrack. Wow. That's a high praise from Robert Piazzolla. Sorry if I forget to read the names. I'm trying, like, it's always like I'm just getting right into reading your comments. It's always very cool to hear. That is high praise, though. I've never played Wing Commander, though. I never even heard of it, just being honest with you. Felicious Felix. My favorite video game song is actually from Genshin Impact. It's not surprising. It's from a little event that already passed, and they haven't used the music in it since 2022, so it's not really a spoiler if you do decide to ever listen to it. Think of it as an extended version of Official's demo theme, which you've heard already. The song's name is called Die Midsommernacht Fantasy. That sounds like a Genshin song, to be honest. And I guess it's from, if it's official, that is also like a very, very official thing to say. Yeah, that's again, like, I think what you guys have, like, and what I learn every week, whether it be with Roaming Reacts or Roaming Recess or the community videos, is that you guys have a lot of varied taste. And I think that's what people forget sometimes. Yes, we have our favorite games, but we have so many things that we love dearly that we don't talk about all the time, and it's always good to learn from my patrons what you guys know as well and what you guys are interested in. I want to say quickly thank you to the Can Never Repay the Baby Gangsta tier on Patreon for all your support. You get thanked in every single video. For €15 a month. Ty502, Jamie Bull, Jana Banana, Normal Kara, Rachel S, The Ghost of Inazuma, Felicitas Felix, George Candelaria, Eskun, Yuld, Radish, Pokegirl, Tedder, and Fruity. I want to give a special shout out again to Normal Kara, who we forgot to shout out. Don't worry, everything was sorted out, refunds were given and all this stuff. It was just, it got mixed up in the shuffle. But a big special shout out to you. Thank you so much for being so, they didn't ask for any refund, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, you know, they're a very nice person and they just are here for the support, but I want to make a special shout out to that.